Jai Shri Radhe. Today is day 98 of the readings. We continue with Varta 82, story of Sri Paramanandas, starting with part 2. Jai Shri Krishna Shri Vallabhadri Ki Jai, Shri Naji Ki Jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. One day Shri Acharyaji told Paramanandas about the glories of Sri Thakurji's feet, so he composed a song about this and sang it to him. Rag Kanharo. I bow down to the lotus feet of the Lord of the whole world, who runs with cows. Those lotus feet are covered in dust, but the gopis embrace them to their hearts. Yudhishthira worshipped those feet when he came to the kingly sacrifice, and grandsire Bhishma managed to have their sight in the Mahabharat war. These lotus feet are kept inside the lotus hearts of Shiva and Brahma. They are the chest ornaments of Lakshmi, so borne witness to by the Vedas and the Puranas. In order to purify the three worlds, these lotus feet were set on Bali's back. Now the poet Paramanandas sings their praises with his heart full of the nectar of love. Paramanandas then sang this song of supplication, Rag Kanharo, and now beg the Lord, who is the beloved of the gopis, please grant me the birth of the human and Seva of the Lord, while letting me live comfortably in Vraja. Let me be the servant of Sri Acharyaji and the Vaishnavas, bathe regularly in the Sri Mataji river, and sing the beloved's praises with my mind, actions and speech. May I always listen to the recitations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. May my heart never stray from them, or desire shelter elsewhere. The poet Paramanandas' wish is to be always to be able to have their holy sight and be contented therewith. Part 2. When Sri Acharyaji heard Paramanandas sing this, he understood that the poet was expressing his soul's desire to go to Vraja. He decided to take him there. Sri Acharyaji then insisted on making a trip to Vraja, and then Damodar Das, Harsani, Krishnadas, Megan, Paramanandas and Yadavendra Das, along with some other Vaishnavas, left Adel to go there with him. On the way they passed through Paramanandas's hometown of Kanauj. He invited Sri Acharyaji to visit his home there. Feeling most fortunate, Paramanandas most lovingly brought Sri Acharyaji to his home, and then he went out and purchased all the necessary supplies. He also very lovingly and humbly persuaded all the accompanying Vaishnavas to accept supplies from him so that they could all prepare their offerings. Sri Acharyaji cooked all varieties of preparations, both sakari and anasakari, and offered them to Sri Thakurji. When he accepted those offerings back as prasad, he then ate. Afterwards, when all the Vaishnavas had also partaken of Mahaprasad, he went to his sitting place and sat down. After everyone else, Paramanandas had his prasad and went to Sri Acharyaji, bowed low to him and sat down. Sri Acharyaji requested him to sing something of the Lord's glories. The poet considered, at this time Sri Acharyaji must be contemplating the Leelas of Vraja with Sri Govardhan Nathji. Therefore he decided to sing a song in the mood of separation. Rag Sorat. O Shri Hari, I remember your pastimes. There are so many of your pictures in my mind, you with your lotus eyes and your enchanting form. So Hari Teri Leela Ki Sudhi Aave, a very, very well-known song. In fact, once anyone has met you through your kindness, they can never forget you with your smiling face, your crooked glances and your enticing gait. Sometimes the gopis, mad in separation from you, embrace each other tightly. Sometimes they sing loudly like cuckoos, and sometimes in a state of utter confusion they ask, "Where are you? Where are you?" and run around together. Sometimes they shut their eyes and go inside their hearts, where they place jeweled necklaces around your neck. The poet Paramanandas now states, meditating on his dark form, I now sing of the separation. Part 2 continues. As Paramanandas began to sing this, Sri Acharyaji got lost in the pastimes of the Lord, Bhav Prakash. In the Sri Vallabhashtakam, Sri Gosaiji has described Sri Acharyaji as the moon of Vrindavan, who has revealed the greatest bliss of the Lord's intimate leelas, which are a source of joy to the appreciative devotees. He is filled with bliss. In the Sarvotam Shlok, Sri Gosaiji has described his father as always ready to reveal his pastimes to those worthy of hearing them. All of Sri Acharyaji's writings are about this one theme into which he is totally absorbed. Therefore, on hearing this pad, he got lost in its contemplation. Part 2 continued. From the outside it appeared as if his body had become lifeless. He stayed in that state for a whole 3 days. His eyes were closed and he was lying on his cushions. Damodara Das, Harsani and the other Vaishnavas who knew Sri Acharyaji's form understood what was going on. They silently sat and watched him. Bhav Prakash. Sri Acharyaji is the Supreme Lord himself, and so he was not limited by the obstructions of a physical body. He had appeared as a human, and so he displayed human behaviour, but essentially his body did not get in the way. His servant sat there patiently for 3 days. Part 2 continued. On the 4th day, Sri Acharyaji regained consciousness and opened his eyes. All the Vaishnavas were very happy. Bhav Prakash. First of all, it may be asked, why did he remain lost in these Leelas for 3 whole days? Here it is explained. Within the Ras Leela there are 3 prominent places, Sri Giriraj, Sri Vrindavan and Sri Yamunaji. On the Sri Giriraj mountain, all the ingredients and situations required for the rasa play are facilitated. 2. In Sri Vrindavan, the Leela is played in the nectar-filled forest bowers. And 3. Sri Yamunaji is the source of the rasa Leela play. In this way, Sri Krishna's Leelas extended throughout both water and land. On the 1st day, Sri Acharyaji experienced the Leelas on Sri Giriraji, many different types of play in the caves within the mountain as described by Sri Chaturbhuj Das in his poem. On the 2nd day, he experienced the Leelas in Sri Vrindavan, and on the 3rd, the play on the banks of Sri Yamunaji and within her waters. He experienced these 3 different Leelas and their different moods on 3 consecutive days. After that, Sri Acharyaji revealed these Leelas on earth by establishing the path of devotion, by which process many souls took shelter in him and could then also experience the nectar and the Leelas. On the 4th day, he opened his eyes and again became aware of his external circumstances. Part 2 continued. Paramanandas Das made up his mind never to sing such a pada again. Bhav Prakash. Paramanandas Das feared that Sri Acharyaji would become so involved in the Leelas that he would withdraw his presence from the earth, and then the divine souls would not be able to be uplifted. He decided not to sing songs expressing separation in front of Sri Acharyaji ever again. Sri Acharyaji's form is that of separation. In Sri Gosaiji's Sarvotam Stotra treatise, he has described his father as the one who recommends renouncing everything else in order to attain the experience of separation. Virahanubhavekartha sarvatyagopadeshakaha. Sri Acharyaji advises that it is necessary to give up all attachment in the world in order to experience this mood. Here he defines separation as forgetting all about mundane and scriptural norms and rules. When this naturally occurs, then know that separation has solidified. Part 2 continued. Paramanandas Das Ji then sang a simple pada recalling Sri Krishna's form, Rag Ramkali. O Mother, let me sing of the bliss and auspiciousness of Sri Krishna. He is the wish-granting jewel of Gokul and gives me whatever I wish for. Since that lotus one appeared in Vraj, prosperity has flooded. The 8 perfections stand in attendance at Sri Nandaraji's door. Sri Vrindavan is full of flowers and fruits, and the heavenly cow gives the treasure of her milk. Just ask, and Indra will cause the clouds to shower. Mother Yashoda explains to all the gopis how Sri Hari is the pinnacle of bliss. The poet Paramanandas Das now says, I love my Lord who plays the flute so beautifully. Part 2 continued. After hearing this, Sri Acharyaji took his prasad and went to lie down. Then all the Vaishnavas also partook of the prasad. So did Paramanandas Das, and then he sang this poem to Sri Acharyaji. Rag Gauri. Sri Krishna is the moon of Vrindavan. I now sing of his spotless fame. My Sri Krishna, protector of the cows, is as bright as the sun and the moon together. Mother Yashoda is always recounting to everyone the splendour of her son, the mass of bliss. The poet Paramanandas Das now sings of how his beloved Lord plays around with the cowherd boys. He then followed with this one. Rag Saranga. Come, O friend, let's go and live in Nanda's village. We will laugh and play with the moon of Vrindavan in the cow pens. Bhatin is a nice happy village, but it is too far away from our Krishna. We will watch from afar as he steals the butter, and thus our lives will be fulfilled. We are forever thirsty for the sight of that fish-eyed Lord. Paramanandas Das now realizes how difficult love is. Hearing this poem, Sri Acharyaji said, Come on, let's go to Vraj. After this, Paramanandas brought all his own disciples to Sri Acharyaji and requested him to accept them all into his shelter. Sri Acharyaji asked Paramanandas why, when he had already initiated all of them with the Lord's name, he now wanted them to be initiated by him. Paramanandas answered, "At that time I was in the mood of Swami, and so I made them my disciples. Now I am your servant. The title of Swami is only proper when it is the title of someone who is truly a Swami. If one is a servant, and one wants to be a Swami, then they are a fool. I was in an ignorant mindset when I made them my disciples. Please now uplift all of them by accepting them into your shelter." Sri Acharyaji initiated all of them with the Lord's name. Then he and all the Vaishnavas assembled there, left Kanauj and travelled to Vraj. They arrived in Gokul and stayed there for some time. Sri Acharyaji would bathe in Sri Yamunaji on Govind Ghat and then sit in his place under the Chankara tree. There is another of his places near Dwarakadishji's temple, which is inside, and there Sri Acharyaji used to pass his nights. He would stay there whenever he came to Gokul. It is known as the inner sitting place. On the day of the Lord's appearance, Sri Acharyaji celebrated the day with Sri Navaneet Priyaji swinging in his cradle and with the showering of lots of milk. This has already been described in the Varta of Gajan Dhawan. One day Sri Acharyaji bathed and was sitting under the Chankara tree. Then all the Vaishnavas together with Paramanandas came there and sat in front of him. Sri Acharyaji taught the Sri Yamunashtakam to Paramanandas, and at that moment Paramanandas saw Sri Yamunaji's form in his heart. He then began to sing of Sri Yamunaji, Rag Ramkali. "O Sri Yamunaji, let me receive your grace in this way. May I sit by you and night and day. May I sit by you day and night and sing the glories of Sri Krishna and Sri Balaram. I will bathe in your purifying waters and forget all my anxieties and struggles. O daughter of the sun, with your blessing, I will develop great affection for Sri Hari's feet. I beg you to grace me by taking me away from the company of the sinful." Now the poet Paramanandas sings of his love for the enchanter Sri Gopalji, the granter of all 4 types of reward. Rag Ramkali. O Sri Yamunaji, know me to be humble, and thus grant me the following. May I always seek to have Sri Krishna as my husband, and may I be the maidservant of the gopis. You are very generous and an ocean of grace. Please make me happy by making me into the servant of your feet. The Lord is captivated by you and always speaks and dances with you. The most beautiful lad Krishna is under your wing. All the Vraja ladies are playing with Sri Hari. The great circle dance is most extraordinary. On your river banks, the glades, trees and flowers are wonderfully pleasing. The gopis, sweating from all the movement, bathe in your waters and enjoy the water play. It looks like the moon is surrounded by stars as the ladies splash in with water. I fall at the feet of Queen Yashoda and beg to serve in her home. May Paramanandas now have become a dasi. Please grant me this joy with the touch of your feet. Rag Ramkali. Sri Yamunaji removes the sins of this age of Kali. She is the daughter of the sun, younger sister of Yamaraj, the dark and lovely goddess, and Govindas' consort. All glories to Sri Yamunaji, beloved of Sri Krishna, who purifies the sinners and carries them across the ocean of birth and death. She grants fearlessness to those who take her shelter and forgets our trespasses as a mother forgives her son. Her waters are cool, slow and fragrant, and an ocean of nectar. She has taken on the form of water in order to appear on the earth. The poet Paramanandas now sings, "She is the most pure, present in every age," and thus the Vedas have declared. Part 2 continued. Paramanandas sang these compositions to Sri Acharyaji as he sat on the banks of Sri Yamunaji. He was very pleased and granted to Paramanandas the vision of all Sri Krishna's childhood pastimes. He especially showed him the pastime of the gopis fetching water from Sri Yamunaji, when he would stop them and play in many ways, thus giving them great joy. Seeing this, Paramanandas sang the following padas. Rag Velawal. Sri Chandravali has filled her water pot in Sri Yamunaji and is on her way home. On the way, she meets the dark and beautiful Sri Krishna, slayer of the demon Mura, who is playing there. When their eyes meet, their minds fill with desire. When his enchanting form enters her eyes, she finds herself unable to move another step. Love blossoms on their first meeting. That supreme bliss-filled Lord Paramanandas describes, and she meets that, and she... That supreme bliss-filled Lord, Paramanandas describes, and she meet like an ant that gets stuck into the irresistible taste of jaggery. Pada Rag Saranga. O my beloved Lord Krishna, please hold my arm. I could not fill my water pot. This path near Sri Yamunaji is too slippery. When the gopi gets a full look at the beautiful dark Lord with his lotus eyes, and then she gets captivated by his form. Love and deep desire rise in her heart, and the Lord recognizes his love within her. Laughing, the Lord of Vraja grasps her hand, tender as a new leaf, so that she would not drop her water pot. The poet Paramanandas says that clever Gopi now teaches the touch of the lotus-eyed Lord. Now enjoys the touch of the lotus-eyed Lord. Part 2 continued. Paramanandas then sang many songs about the Lord's childhood pastimes in Gokul, in which the form of the Lord in Gokul is revealed. And this will be continued tomorrow in day 99. Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai, Aaj ke Anand ki jai, Sab Vaishnavan ko jai Shri Krishna, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.